The shuttle trembled violently as it pierced the thick atmosphere of Velis Kar, a forgotten world lost to the far edges of known space. Outside the viewport, swirling storms of iridescent clouds clashed with jagged mountain peaks, their dark silhouettes looming like silent sentinels over a scarred, desolate landscape. Cale Thorne's jaw clenched as he gripped the armrests, the hum of the engines a faint reassurance amid the uneasy silence that had settled over the cockpit. Velis Kar was supposed to be abandoned, a relic of humanity's once ambitious expansion, a colony swallowed by time and neglect. Yet, months ago, an enigmatic temporal signal had pulsed from its core, a ripple in the fabric of space-time that no one could explain. It was this anomaly that had drawn Cale here, his resolve steeled by a promise whispered through the void, the voice of his lost brother, Dax. The landing was rough. As the shuttle's feet scraped against the cracked metallic soil, a sudden jolt sent a tremor through Cale's chest. He exhaled slowly, the weight of years pressing down on him. The control panel blinked erratically, warning lights flickering like distant stars. Outside, the ground shimmered faintly, rippling as if reality itself were breaking apart. He stepped out into the thin, chill air, the metallic taste of ionized particles biting at his tongue. Velis Kar's surface was a graveyard of half-buried structures, their once proud frames twisted and rusted beneath layers of temporal distortion. The sky above warped intermittently, waves of blue and violet light folding over themselves in impossible loops. Cale's comm crackled softly, a voice layered with static breaking through. "Thorne! Status!" The voice was familiar. Vela, his old contact and sometimes ally. "Landed," Cale replied, scanning the horizon. "Signal's stronger here. Whatever's causing this is below the surface. I'm heading in." He adjusted his visor, the HUD mapping faint temporal fluctuations in the distance, spikes and dips like heartbeat patterns on a dying patient's monitor. As he moved toward the nearest ruin, the air thickened, and a low hum vibrated beneath his boots. Then, without warning, a whisper. Soft, distant, a voice pulled from the past. "Cale, Cale, can you hear me?" His breath caught. The unmistakable timbre of Dax's voice echoed around him, fragmented yet clear. "Dax?" Cale whispered, his heart hammering. The ruins seemed to breathe, walls warping as if alive. The temporal distortion intensified, twisting moments into echoes, past and present bleeding together. Suddenly, the ground beneath him cracked open, revealing a swirling vortex of shimmering light, a rip in the timeline itself. Cale stared down into the abyss, the whispers growing louder, pulling him toward the unknown. His hand clenched into a fist. This was no accident. Velis Kar was alive with secrets, and the answers lay within the fractures of time itself. Taking a deep breath, Cale stepped forward into the chrono rift. The moment Cale's boots touched the uneven ground beyond the chrono rift, the world twisted again. The air shimmered like heat on a desert road, the very fabric of reality humming with unstable energy. He blinked, and the jagged ruins of Velis Kar around him morphed. Walls stretched, colors bled into one another, and shadows warped unnaturally. He had entered the heart of the anomaly. Cale's visor flickered to life, projecting a cascade of data streams and temporal metrics. The readings were unlike anything he'd ever seen. Erratic spikes of time dilation interlaced with deep troughs where moments seemed frozen, trapped in an endless loop. Amid the chaos, a name surfaced repeatedly in his databanks. Observa, a forgotten project rumored to be dismantled decades ago. A clandestine initiative dedicated to monitoring and manipulating temporal events. Yet, here it was, still alive, still active. His comm crackled. "Cale. Status." Villa's voice cut through the distortion, steady as ever. "I'm inside the anomaly," Cale replied, voice low, eyes scanning the horizon. Observa's footprint is here. This place, it's a nexus. Before Vela could respond, a sharp clatter echoed from the ruins ahead. Kale's hand instinctively dropped to his sidearm, the cold metal a reassuring weight. From the shadows, a band of rugged figures emerged. Pirates by their worn gear and aggressive stance, but their eyes told a different story. Desperation mixed with fear. They weren't just scavengers, they were hunters tracking the same elusive prize. Kale's voice was calm but firm. "Stand down. I'm not your enemy." One pirate, a tall woman with a jagged scar crossing her cheek, sneered. "No one gets to the heart of this without paying the price. You're trespassing." Without warning, a pulse of temporal energy surged through the air. The ground buckled beneath them, and time seemed to skip. A brief flash, then everything snapped back. Kale seized the moment, sprinting forward as reality fractured again. The pirates scrambled after him, but the rift's unstable nature worked both ways. Time loops trapped some in moments repeating endlessly. Dodging through warped corridors of stone and light, Kale reached a concealed vault door embedded in the ruins. His hand hovered over the interface, the ancient tech humming with dormant power. He keyed in the override sequence Vela had hacked for him days before. The door hissed open, revealing a chamber bathed in eerie blue light. Inside, consoles blinked with data feeds streaming from multiple temporal points. At the room's center, a cylindrical core pulsed rhythmically, the beating heart of Observa's system. Kale approached, fingers trembling as he connected his device. Data flooded his visor, records of experiments, time manipulations, and a chilling revelation. Dax's last known coordinates were here, used as a subject in temporal trials. The room vibrated suddenly, alarms piercing the stillness. Through the holoscreens, Kale caught a shadowed figure's silhouette moving with purpose. Solon Vark, the ruthless director of Observa. "You've gone too far, Thorn." Vark's voice crackled over the comm, cold and commanding. "This is bigger than your personal vendettas. Step away or be erased from time itself." Kale's jaw tightened. The stakes were clear. The secrets of Observa held not only his brother's fate, but the future of all realities tangled in the chronorift. With grim determination, Kale braced himself. The true battle was just beginning. The chamber's eerie blue glow cast long shadows across Kale's face as he stood silently, absorbing the weight of Solon Vark's threat. The name alone stirred unease. Vark was a legend, whispered about in covert circles, a man who had ascended from ruthless field operative to the enigmatic head of Observa, the shadowy agency manipulating time itself. Kale's fingers tightened around the edge of a console, the cold metal grounding him. Outside the vault, the anomaly raged, time flickering like a failing star, unstable and unpredictable. Within this volatile nexus, every second was a knife's edge. The comm crackled again. Vark's voice, measured and icy, seeped into the silence. "Why chase ghosts, Kale? Your brother's fate is sealed in timelines beyond your reach. Join me instead. Together we can reshape the future." Kale's heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. "You've twisted time for your own gain. Dax was a victim of your experiments, not a tool for your ambition." A faint, sardonic laugh echoed through the channel. "Ambition? No. Vision. I protect the continuum from chaos. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary." The holographic projection in front of Kale shifted, revealing a complex lattice of interwoven timelines. Vark's plan was bold, ruthless, to impose a singular, perfected timeline, his own design, by severing every divergent thread. The so-called infinite core was the engine of this plan, hidden deep within Velis Kar's shattered crust. Kale's gaze hardened. The infinite core's activation would erase countless realities, countless lives, replacing them with Vark's sterile order. Determined, Kale breached deeper into the vault, bypassing layered security with code fragments Vela had uploaded remotely. Each step felt like crossing a boundary between Kale ignited his plasma pistol, the weapon's blue glow a stark contrast to the vault's sterile light. A fierce firefight erupted, bullets skipping erratically through warped space, time dilating and contracting around each shot. Kale moved with precision, honed by years of survival, weaving through temporal distortions that slowed and accelerated his movements unpredictably. His mind raced, calculating every risk, every possible timeline of success or failure. Amid the chaos, Vark's voice resonated once more, now from a hidden transmitter. "You cannot win, Kale. The time stream bends to my will." But Kale refused to relent. For Dax, for the countless souls caught in the fracture, for the fragile hope that time might still be free. As the last guard fell, Kale's comm beeped urgently, Vela's voice tense but resolute. "Kale, I've found something. There's a secondary core, an archive. It holds the original timeline data, hidden beneath the city ruins. If we can access it, we might reverse the damage." Kale's breath caught, a spark of hope amid the encroaching darkness. "Lead the way," he said, voice firm. "The fight isn't over." The air was thick with dust and the faint hum of latent energy. As Kale descended into the forgotten undercity of Velis Kar, the ancient labyrinth stretched beneath the shattered surface, a sprawling network of tunnels, vaults, and data archives buried centuries ago, swallowed by time and secrecy. The faint glow of Kale's visor pierced the gloom, casting long, wavering shadows on cracked walls adorned with faded glyphs and cryptic symbols. Each step echoed like a heartbeat, the sounds swallowed by the cavernous expanse around him. Vela's voice came through the comm, steady despite the static. "The archive is here. Sensors detect a massive data core, likely the original timeline repository Vark's been hiding." Kale's mind raced. This was the key, the only chance to restore what Vark threatened to erase. But accessing the archive wouldn't be simple. The Undercity was a fortress of layered defenses, temporal traps, security protocols, and unstable zones where time folded onto itself, trapping trespassers in endless loops. The first challenge came swiftly. A narrow corridor shimmered, caught in a time loop that replayed the last 5 seconds endlessly. Kale timed his breath, then dashed forward between flickering phantoms of himself, the loop snapping shut behind him like a snapping jaw. Further in, the air grew colder, tinged with ozone and the faint scent of burnt circuitry. He approached a massive door carved from a single monolithic alloy plate, etched with pulsating runes that glowed in sync with his heartbeat. His gloves interfaced with the door's biometric scanner. Moments later, the heavy barrier slid open with a resonant sigh, revealing a cavernous chamber bathed in blue luminescence. At its center stood the archive core, a towering crystalline structure pulsing with raw temporal data, veins of light weaving through its facets like threads in a cosmic web. The sheer magnitude of information was overwhelming, but Kale steeled himself. As he connected his device to the core's interface, images flooded his visor. Fragmented memories, alternate realities, timelines where Dax lived, timelines where Velis Kar thrived, and others twisted into ruins by Vark's manipulations. Suddenly, a sharp alarm shattered the silence. The room's shadows lengthened and twisted, coalescing into spectral forms, echoes of Velis Kar's long-dead inhabitants, trapped in residual time energy. Kale's heart hammered. These echoes weren't hostile, but their presence distorted the core's signals, threatening to corrupt the data. "Vela, I need you now," Kale breathed into the comm. "I'm losing the signal. These echoes are destabilizing the archive." "On it," came her swift reply. "Uploading countermeasures." Digital pulses rippled through the chamber, weaving protective fields around Kale as he worked feverishly to stabilize the data. Beads of sweat traced his jawline despite the chill. Minutes stretched like hours before the hum steadied, the spectral forms fading into harmless light. The core's data began to realign, revealing a sequence that could reverse Vark's timeline overwrite, a code embedded deep within Veliskar's past. But with the data secured came a new threat. The vault's outer defenses triggered a seismic pulse, cracking the chamber walls. Kale grabbed his pack and dashed toward the exit as the Undercity trembled violently. Time fractures exploded around him, twisting the corridors into shifting mazes. Bursting into the open air, Kale gasped. The sky above was ablaze with temporal storms, lightning weaving fractal patterns across the clouds. His mission was far from over, but now, armed with the Archive's secrets, the fight to save the continuum had truly begun. The storm above Veliskar was a furious tempest of swirling temporal energy, painting the sky with streaks of electric blue and violet that crackled like the breath of the universe itself. Kale stood at the edge of the city ruins, his breath shallow, heart pounding, as the Archive's data hummed quietly in his pack. The knowledge contained within was both a weapon and a beacon, a chance to rewrite a fractured past. Yet the victory felt hollow. The battle for time was far from over. Vela's voice came through, steady but urgent. "Kale, we're not alone. I intercepted comm chatter. Vark's enforcers are mobilizing. And worse, there's a new player, the Crimson Syndicate. They want the Archive for themselves." Kale's jaw clenched. The Crimson Syndicate, notorious mercenaries and time pirates, thrived on chaos, exploiting fractures in the timeline for profit and power. Their intervention could tip the scales into catastrophic collapse. "We need allies," Kale muttered. "People who can navigate this madness and stand against both Vark and the Syndicate." The ruins around them whispered with secrets, old alliances and hidden dangers. Kale remembered an old contact, Elias Drake, a former temporal operative turned rogue, rumored to possess knowledge of the Syndicate's movements and Vark's vulnerabilities. Locating Elias was no simple task. His hideout was buried deep within the labyrinthine sectors of New Aegis, a city built on the skeleton of Veliskar's ruins where time itself folded in unpredictable ways. Kale navigated the neon-lit streets of New Aegis, shadows dancing under flickering hollow ads that displayed distorted images from past and future timelines. The city was a kaleidoscope of eras, Victorian spires juxtaposed with sleek, cybernetic towers, all caught in a perpetual flux. Finally he found Elias, a tall, wiry man with steel-gray eyes and a cybernetic arm etched with glowing runes, sitting in a smoky tavern named the Temporal Drift. "Kale Thorne," Elias said, his voice rough but warm. "Haven't seen you since the Rift incident." Kale nodded. "I need your help. Vark's plan will erase countless realities. The Crimson Syndicate is moving to seize the Archive. We need to stop them." Elias leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Dangerous game, but I owe you one. Let's just say I have my own scores to settle with Vark." The uneasy alliance formed in that dimly lit room was a fragile thread amidst a tapestry of chaos. Elias revealed intelligence about the Syndicate's operatives, a ruthless commander named Kayla Varus, known for her cold precision and a vendetta against anyone meddling with time. As they spoke, the tavern's hollow screens flickered violently. An incoming Syndicate strike force was closing in. Kale's grip tightened on his plasma pistol. The fight for the Archive was escalating. Alliances would fracture or forge anew, and the very fate of time itself rested on the razor's edge. The air in the dimly lit alley behind the Temporal Drift was thick with tension, electric and unyielding. Kale's senses were heightened, every sound amplified, every shadow a potential threat. Elias checked his weapons, cybernetic arm whirring softly as it interfaced with his gear, while Kale scanned the horizon for signs of the approaching Syndicate strike force. Kayla Varys isn't just a commander, Elias muttered, voice low. She's a master tactician who bends time in combat, makes seconds stretch, compresses enemy movements. She's why the Syndicate's so deadly. Kale swallowed hard but nodded. The stakes had never been higher. The first shimmer appeared like a mirage, ripples in the fabric of reality as Syndicate operatives materialized, stepping through improvised temporal rifts. They moved with unnerving precision, weapons crackling with unstable Chronos energy, designed to disrupt neural synchronization. Kale and Elias dropped into combat positions, their plasma pistols flaring to life. "Remember," Elias warned, "time dilation can work both ways. Don't get caught in her loops." The fight erupted with a deafening roar. Bullets and energy blasts tore through the alley, but time itself warped, bending around the combatants. Kale felt seconds stretch infinitely as he dodged a sniper's shot, then collapse in a blur as he returned fire. Amidst the chaos, Kayla Varys emerged, a striking figure clad in adaptive armor that shimmered like liquid silver, eyes glowing with fierce intelligence and a cold resolve. She moved with grace and lethal efficiency, her every strike accompanied by temporal distortions that twisted the battlefield. Kale locked eyes with her, recognizing the deadly determination he'd seen mirrored in his own reflection. "You're meddling where you don't belong, Thorn." Kayla's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. "The timeline belongs to those with the strength to control it." Kale gritted his teeth. "The timeline belongs to everyone, not just tyrants." The battle intensified, each strike fracturing moments into fragmented echoes. Kale realized he couldn't rely solely on firepower. He needed to outthink Kayla's temporal manipulation. He tapped into his own training, syncing his neural implants to the rhythmic pulses of the city's fluctuating time streams. By anticipating shifts and riding the currents of warped moments, he began to counter her moves, turning her time bends against her. With Elias covering his flank, Kale closed the distance, driving Kayla back step by step. Their clash was not just physical, but temporal, a war of wills stretching across seconds and centuries in microcosm. Finally, with a calculated surge, Kale disabled her armor's chronofield generator, sending a shockwave that rippled through the time stream and shattered her defenses. As her forces retreated through collapsing rifts, Kale and Elias breathed heavily, the alley falling silent but for the distant hum of temporal storms. "We just bought ourselves time," Elias said grimly. "But Vark won't wait." Kale nodded, steeling himself. The gambit had succeeded, for now. But the battle for the continuum was far from finished. The temporary calm after the battle felt like the fragile silence before a cosmic storm. Kale and Elias retreated to a hidden sanctuary deep within New Aegis, a forgotten relic of the old Velis Car infrastructure, a place shielded from temporal fluctuations and prying eyes. The chamber was dimly lit by ancient bioluminescent panels that hummed softly, casting eerie blue glows on the metallic walls. Kale placed the archive data core carefully on a secure pedestal, its pulsating light sinking faintly with his racing heartbeat. But peace was fleeting. Elias was tense, pacing like a predator on edge. "Vela just sent a coded warning. There's a mole in our midst, someone feeding Vark information. The Syndicate strike was too well coordinated." Kale's eyes narrowed. Trust had always been a scarce currency in the fractured timelines, but now it was a matter of survival. "Who?" Kale demanded, voice low but urgent. Elias shook his head. Not sure yet, but whoever it is, they're close. Maybe closer than we think. The two men exchanged grim looks, knowing suspicion could fracture their fragile alliance as easily as any weapon. Suddenly, the chamber's comm panel flickered, displaying a grainy face, the enigmatic Vela, her expression etched with urgency. Kale, Elias, listen carefully. Vark has initiated Project Obsidian. If he succeeds, the entire timeline will collapse into a single point of annihilation. We need to act fast. Kale clenched his fists. What's the plan? Vela's eyes darted. We must infiltrate Vark's stronghold, the Citadel of Kronos, before he activates the device. But there's a catch. The mole's identity must be revealed first, or we risk walking into a trap. A heavy silence settled. Elias broke it, voice low and resolute. Then we root out the traitor, and we do it tonight. The hunt began. Kale sifted through recent interactions, recalling moments and conversations that now seemed tinged with deceit. The weight of doubt settled on every word exchanged. They devised a trap, a false transmission planted to lure the mole into revealing themselves. Hours stretched as shadows lengthened and time ticked relentlessly toward Vark's fatal strike. Then, the trap sprung. A figure moved stealthily within their sanctuary, hands